Welcome, welcome. Um, I'll introduce myself because I always forget to do that. But I am Marissa Price. I'm a social worker, healer, educator, former banker. So I have a whole bunch of random things in my background. But I worked in the economic development sector before I left a toxic job. And that's kind of how I came across Nicole Banister here, also known as Nikki Bands. But yeah, I will pass it over to her to introduce herself and all the wonderful things that she does.
Well, hello, Marissa. Thank you so much for having me here
Yeah.
today. I'm so excited. We get to have a young chit chat here on your YouTube. For
Yeah.
those that don't know me, my name is Nicole Banister, aka Nikki Bands. You can follow me on Instagram at They Call Me Bands. I'm a TV show host, a presenter, and an MC. And I had a decade-long career in international development and diplomacy before I started doing all the cool shit I'm doing now. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you've lived a lot of different places in the world, right? I would love to hear about the different places you live because a lot of us international travel is new to us, the concept of it. So I would love to
Mm.
hear about the places you traveled and lived and stuff like that. I'd love to share.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think my whole travel journey starts with my parents, actually. I am half Black American, half Iranian. So already
Hmm.
growing up, I had this multicultural, multinational family. Like my mom immigrated to the US when she was 16 for college, like met my dad in school. And so because of that, I always had this like wealth of different ideas and perspectives surrounding me, right? My dad would say one thing, my mom would say another thing, and then they'd look at my brother and I and be like, well, what do you two think? Right. So that was
Mm,
really what
yeah.
started this very like multicultural journey for me. And because my dad worked in oil, we ended up moving, we were in California, we were in Texas, we were back in California, then we moved to Singapore, then we moved back to California, then I went to DC doing my undergrad at Georgetown, spent the summer living and working in Bolivia, went back to DC, and then after I graduated college, moved to South
Wow.
Africa, and then that was 10 years ago. I'm still in Cape Town, coming to you live from South Africa right now. So it's really been a crazy whirlwind journey around the world, but honestly, there's so much richness, so much culture, so much beauty in like getting outside of your bubble, getting outside of your comfort zone, leaving the United States, especially as women, especially as Black American women.
Hmm.
It's just an absolutely liberating thing to be able to move through the world and to
Hmm.
do it in the way that only we can.
Yeah, that's true. That is so inspiring too to see the world is huge in all the places you've been. It's like you can leave the US. It is possible. Sometimes it feels like it's not, like it's out of reach, but just hearing all the places you traveled to and lived in, it's like, wow, it's doable. That's
I
inspiring.
mean, honestly, it's like we are so blessed. If you're American, let's be honest, that blue
Yeah.
passport, you are so blessed. You can travel almost anywhere in the world, visa free, so those are privileges that a lot of people don't have. That's a privilege that my Nigerian partner doesn't have. He cannot move through the
Mm.
world in the way that I can because of my blue passport, right? So if you have that passport, take advantage of it. Get on a plane, go try somewhere new, see somewhere new, learn a new language, dance a new dance, eat new foods. Like
Yeah.
really it's one of the great privileges of this life to be able to explore and learn about other people and other places and other cultures. And you might just find a little bit of yourself in those other places.
I love that. I love that. And that's something that I've just now learned, being a part of Exodus Summit community, like the power of the blue passport when you aren't an American
Yes.
citizen. It's like, because a lot of times, as Black people, as Black women, we don't even feel like we have the rights of citizens of being in the
Right.
US. But having that passport, being able to travel, that's a privilege that we should take advantage of. So, yeah, I love that. I did
Mm.
want to ask you about Nikki Band's Live. So this is your weekly live stream on Instagram where you interview people around the world. Just wanted to hear about the background behind that, how you got into that, and then how you choose your guests because you have guests from all different sectors in the world. Very interesting.
Yes, thank you so much for asking, Marissa.
Yeah.
It's so funny because literally this time slot right now is normally when I do Nikki Ben's live, and so I was like, I'm going live today, but a different kind of live.
Yeah.
Um, and Nikki Ben's live started off just really as a way for me to build a portfolio in the entertainment space without having any kind of show or any kind of anything to my name. So like I sort of briefly mentioned in my intro, I had a
Mm-hmm.
decade-long career in international development and diplomacy. I was working for a big international nonprofit organization, traveling
Mm-hmm.
all over the African continent and across the Western Pacific. I mean, I was an American citizen based in Cape Town, South Africa. And every
Yeah.
single month I was traveling to Nigeria, Cameroon, Botswana, Mozambique, Uganda, like just the most incredible places across the world. I did that for years and years and years, was doing global partnerships work, speaking at the UN, doing some really interesting things. And when I decided to make the pivot, which I'm sure we'll talk about later in this interview, but when I
Mm-hmm.
decided to make that pivot
Yeah.
and do my own thing, I decided that the elements of that I loved the most were being on my feet, facilitating, hosting workshops, and speaking to other people across the world. So I thought to myself, how can I continue to do that outside of the international development space, outside of diplomacy? And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a TV show host. And
Yes.
I didn't have a single TV show to my name. I literally just
Mm-hmm.
went onto LinkedIn. I changed my headline and I just wrote TV show host. And I was like, all right, LinkedIn plus universe,
That's
do your
awesome.
thing. Like, make it work for me. Literally
Yeah.
make it work for me. And, so I talked to a lot of my friends who are in the industry, friends who I know who have shows on Netflix, or rappers or artists that I know. I have a really big creative community here in Cape Town and other places like Nairobi and Dubai. And so I asked basically I asked all my famous friends, I said, okay, well, how do I get to where you are? And they said, you've got the voice, you've got the look, you've got the energy, but nobody knows who you are. So they're like, you need to start your own thing. And so because of that, Nikki Vans Live was born. So I said, you know what? I'm going to call in favors from all of my blue ticked friends on Instagram. We're going to go live for an hour. We're going to talk. And for me, that was important. I didn't want it to just be a podcast because I wanted people to see my face. I wanted people to, associate my face with my voice. And so, for me, it wasn't just about sort of like hearing my voice. It was about having that face as well. So I could get into, the TV world. And that's how Nikki Vans Live was born. And so I've been able to basically just tap into this glorious network of people that I know from my travels in the development world, in the diplomacy
Mm-hmm.
world, and just be like, hey, do you want to come on my IG live show, Nikki Vans Live? And I try and book a different guest from a different country every single week. And it's been amazing to actually hear how similar these people who are very successful. I've interviewed Nigerian Olympians on my show. I've interviewed Zambia's
Mm.
biggest rapper. I've interviewed Grammy award-winning singers from the Kenyan group Sati Soul. They're the biggest band in East Africa. I've interviewed Nigerian Nollywood rock stars. Like, I've had the most incredible people come on the show, and really the common thread from all these conversations is how
Mm-hmm.
hard they worked to be as successful as they are today. So it's been incredible to like interview people from 50 different countries, and that
Right.
same thread actually remains the same.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and just going through like your Instagram feed, it's like you can learn so much from people from all over the world. Like you said, different sectors, like actors, singers, like business people all over the world. And it makes us realize that the globe is more connected than we think it is, and that's powerful. But I did something you said, you gave yourself permission, right? You labeled yourself as a TV host. I think that's so powerful because a lot of the times as Black women, we are waiting for someone else to give us permission to do something, waiting or like seeking external validation that it's okay to do this. But you just changed your LinkedIn title, like, no, I'm a TV host now.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
And the universe is
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, you are. Here are the opportunities that await you. So I love that. I love that so much. And
Thank
also,
you.
yeah, you took your skills that you had gained in your career international development. You took your skills and then you just transfer those to the career that you wanted and dreamed of. I love that. I love that.
Girl, it's
Um,
the only way to go.
I love that. Yes. So I did want to ask you, how did you trust yourself enough to make that pivot? Because that's the point we get stuck at often, is trusting ourselves enough to take that step. So how was that process for you?
I mean, it's been a long and hard journey,
Yeah.
honestly. Like what you mentioned,
Hmm.
as Black women, as women of color, particularly from the
Right.
United States, where there's so much trauma associated with our history and with our legacy and with our mothers and our grandmothers and our families. Like
Yeah.
there's so much of that, right? It's really hard to step forward and say, I'm going to choose me. I think that's really the hardest thing that
Right.
we as women of color can do is to choose ourselves.
Hmm.
Because our professional lives want us to choose capitalism, men
Yes.
want us to choose
True.
patriarchy, like
Yes.
everyone wants us to choose something else, except for ourselves. And when you put yourself first, when you love yourself radically and unconditionally, you're absolutely unstoppable. And it took me a long time to get to that point.
Hmm.
And the journey and the process for me was difficult. I was in a job and in an industry that was totally gaslighting me. I was watching employees at my company who had been there for less time than I was, all of a sudden moving up the ranks and getting promotions and getting pay raises and getting title changes that I wasn't getting, even though I had more experience and had worked in more areas of the company that they had. I
Right.
was watching myself get passed up for opportunities, um, in a way that didn't make any sense because I was perfectly positioned and perfectly poised for those opportunities. Excuse me. And it was hard. I had to really step back, and it's really the reason why I quit, right? It was
Hmm.
me knowing that I was being treated the way I was being treated because of my race, because of my skin color, and also
Hmm.
knowing that in an organization and in a place like the international development world, which is allegedly rooted in social justice and social impact, right? I was in a space where I was looking around and seeing that all the decision makers were white American men or white European men, and they were making decisions exclusively on behalf of Black African youth. And that was something I could no longer be a part of. At the time that I quit my organization, I was the only person of color on the global staff. And there's so many layers and levels to that, because even me being the only person of color on the global staff, I'm still American. What is a
Hmm.
global
Right.
team full of Americans? It's not global, right? So it took me so much time. It took that hard quit of setting that very hard and firm boundary and saying, I cannot be in this organization anymore. And actually, I can't be in this whole industry anymore because they don't align with my values. They don't perpetuate social justice the way that they're actually talking about it. It took that hard cut for me to really step back, and it took months of resting and working with different healers and healing modalities, working with an
Yeah.
acupuncturist, working with massage therapists, working with energetic alignment specialists. It took months of that for me to really get back to myself and who I am, and say, actually, this is really what I am about. I am about social justice. I am about social impact. And the
Hmm.
people and the organizations and the sectors and the industries that were gaslighting me were wrong, right?
Mm.
I know that I'm right. And I'm going to go out there and put that into the world the best possible way that I can, taking the
Right.
things from the past that worked, burning the bridges that need to be burned. A lot of people talk about not burning bridges. I burned hella
Yeah.
bridges, okay? And I did it on
Yeah.
purpose, and I don't regret it. And I needed hard cuts, hard breaks, so that I could heal and that I could evolve into the best version of myself, which is the version that you getting on this YouTube live
I love
today.
that. I love that. Yeah. I had a similar experience, right? Working in economic development, the gaslighting, the people in charge not really being interested in serving the community's interests. And when you try to voice those concerns, it's like gaslighting to the max. So I have had that experience as well, unfortunately. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask you, how did you realize the career you were in was harming you? Was there a process of like realization, after you experience after experience, right, of gaslighting, which we know is real in any type of development, international development, domestic development? How did you come to the realization that it was harming you?
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
A couple of things. There were like some very overtly racist incidents that happened
Yeah.
at my company, and There were two incidents in particular. I call them disastrous phone call number 1 and disastrous phone call number 2. But I can like literally look at and be like, those are the times when, you know, everything shifted for me. Disastrous phone call number 1 centered around like the team being really excited about diversity and hiring because they had hired a woman. Yet the woman and the man that they had hired were still both white and still both from the global north. And of course, you know, me being who I am, I had to call that out and be like, okay, yes, you did a good job of a diversity hire in the sense, you know, of gender, but our team is still all white except for me. And that was sort of in the beginning of my time in this space. So that was probably 2016. And, you know, and that actually was received with really positive feedback. So that was the moment where I was like, yeah, actually, okay, you know what? I have a voice, I have agency. People are listening to me. They want to hear what I have to say. It was received very well. Multiple directors followed up with me and were like, we didn't even think about that. Wow, shocker. What? You know, and so, you know, and so that motivated me to want to continue working there. But it was a sign. It was a very clear sign that diversity was looked at in a very specific type of way and didn't necessarily include folks that look like you and me. And that was sort of step number 1. Disastrous phone call number 2 happened after a white South African contractor, so somebody who was not a full-time employee, someone who was just there on a contract basis, was in the office screaming at our Black South African cleaner in the office, you know, telling her that she's doing a bad job and what is she doing? And this was someone who, you know, obviously there's a power dynamic involved. You're a contractor versus a cleaner. There's that power dynamic. Now there's a race dynamic between you being white and you being Black. And the woman had been at our company for like a decade. She was a seasoned and well-loved person, you know, at our office and in our community. And so obviously this blew up and made very big news across the organization. And the CEO, who was in the United States, called into the office in Cape Town, South Africa, where we were and where the incident had happened, and said honestly, it was a really bullshit, fake apology. And, you know, and then I decided, okay, no, I'm going to say something about this. And I was in a very unique position of privilege because even though I am Black and I'm a person of color, so I can understand, you know, how tragic that incident was, I'm also American. Whereas my South African and Zambian and Zimbabwean counterparts don't have the agency to stand up to a white American CEO. Right now, you've got geopolitics at play, right? That people aren't going to stand up and say something because they can't. You know, you're not going to say something like that. I, on the other hand, I'm going to say something because fire me? Okay, fine, fire me. I'll go find another job that pays me in US dollars, right? But that's not the same situation for my counterparts from the global South or from Southern Africa. So, you know, I got up and said something on that call to the CEO. I used his own methodology, like the company's methodology, and I went point by point to talk about how he didn't do any of those things, and that's why this meeting was a failure and his apology was fake. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, now I don't want to go back. Now I'm no longer fighting the good fight. Now there are way too many incidences of trauma and institutionalized racism and people not wanting to change. And those are, I'm honestly, Marissa, those are just 2 like examples. There are so many examples. I'll just tell you this one. There was an example of a time when an email was sent out about the time change. You know, like the time changes in the United States. That doesn't happen across all countries. And most countries that, you know, I was working in at the time, Nigeria, Malawi, Botswana, South Africa, their time doesn't change. Only the US time changes. So an email was sent out, an all staff email was sent out saying the time difference, there's going to be a time difference in the United States. So all of a sudden, the time difference will change an hour between New Hampshire, which is where the company was, New Hampshire and Vermont. There's going to be a time difference between Vermont and Africa. Vermont and Africa. And so I just sent a very simple email being like, hey, just wanted to clarify, as I'm sure you know, There are multiple different time zones across the African continent, across the
Yes.
54 countries and thousands of cultures and languages. So typically when I like to, compare differences, I'll compare a city and a city, like Los Angeles and Cape Town, or maybe I'll compare a country and a country, like the United States and South Africa, so maybe that would just make it more clear because your statement is actually factually incorrect. Okay.
Right.
And I did it in a very diplomatic and a very polite kind of way, right? But all of a sudden, this email that I sent to like one HR person made its way all the way up to the CEO, made its way all the way up to all the VPs.
HR.
Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's like, this email, the time zone email. And I was like, oh, so we're not even gonna try and talk about how like literally culturally biased and prejudiced that statement was. You comparing like Vermont to Africa, like let's continent. Just girl, I got so many stories, girl. We need another interview. I'll tell you all the stories.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just those stories you shared, I'm like, whoo, that's a lot. And like you said, that's traumatic when you're experiencing that over and over again and no one's like making a big deal out of it. Like, yes, it is a big deal. How you're treating people is a big deal. Whew. Yeah, I got a lot of stories too. Yeah, to chat offline.
We're gonna chat offline.
Yes. But I did want to ask you, were there times when you faced like self-doubt, right? When you're going through this process? Because I know like getting to that point where it finally clicks, like I cannot be in here anymore. It's harming me. Were there feelings of self-doubt that you experienced along the way, and how did you deal with those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I did my undergrad at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. And I say that to say that I come from a very competitive professional background. I have, friends who are foreign service officers, friends who are, consultants at the Big Four, friends who, are in law school. Now they're mergers and acquisitions lawyers in New York, making $300,000 a year. Like I came from a very competitive academic climate. So when you're constantly being gaslit and when you're constantly being told that you're not doing enough or you're being passed up for opportunities, it feels awful, right? You're like, am I not doing the right thing? Am I not doing enough? Have I not tried to, put up enough opportunities? Have I not suggested enough things? Have I not made myself available to go travel all over the world, to go to crazy countries for you guys? Like, it's like, you absolutely start to doubt yourself. And I was doubting myself. And that's one of the reasons why it took me so long to leave. I can say that, I had that little niggle, that little inkling, that little touch. I had that for probably 3 years before I actually made the jump and quit. So for a long time, I knew that I wanted to leave. I knew the institution wasn't right for me, but I didn't know what to do. And the very professional, very ambitious, very corporate side of me was saying, you can't leave until you know what's next. You can't leave until you have a new job opportunity. But I was so engulfed in this company and their toxic work culture and their gaslighting and the way that they were treating people of color in the organization and our clients and our partners that I was like, I couldn't even think about next steps. Like I couldn't even think about what was going to come next. And so it was really hard for me to take that leap of faith and to leave because of all the doubt. And that's literally gaslighting 101, right? It makes you think like I could never work anywhere else. I could never be successful anywhere else.
Me.
Right? That's that's gaslighting 101. And so it was that. And it was also for me the fact that, because I was American living in South Africa, my visa to live and work in this country that I had called home, at that point for 8 years, was tied to that company. So if I left, it was like, oh, now all of a sudden I have to leave my entire life in South Africa too, which was something that I really didn't want to do. So there were so many things that I was doubting for myself and for my next steps. And it was absolutely like very difficult to get myself out of that mindset and out of that headspace that I was going to be okay and that everything was going to be all right.
Yeah, I know that process can be a long one. Because it also took me like 1.5 years to really step into that after having, because
Right.
those feelings will come up initially, and then you'll kind of push them down like, no, I got to stay here. I got to just, they're not going to run me out of
Mm.
here. Because that's something I also dealt with. Like, I worked too hard
Right.
to get to this position. They're not running me out of here. But what it does, it ends up harming you, right? While you're still in this environment, continuing to be traumatized, continuing to be gaslighted. You're trying to advocate for communities, and the pushback that you're receiving, it's just like it hurts you. So you have to
Mm.
exit. So I did want to ask you if you have any advice for people who are looking to exit, looking to transform their lives, because you have made a major life transformation that is so admirable. I'm just sitting over here like inspired by everything I see you post. So if you have any advice for people who are looking to, do the same and change their lives.
Oh my gosh, I have so much advice. First piece of advice
Yes,
is that if you
yes.
want to have like if you want to have a one-on-one, like if you want to really talk it out with me, please slide
Mhm.
into my DMs, find me on LinkedIn, Nicole Banister. I legit, since I left, I have
Mhm.
helped no less than I would say 6 people also leave their jobs at like government,
Oh, wow.
UN, INGOs. Like, I will help
Yeah.
you. I will support you. I will talk you through it. So that's that piece of advice number one. You want to holler at me? Come holler
Okay.
at Nikki Bands. I got
I
you.
I
I
might have to
will.
do that.
I'll. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about it. That's number
Yeah.
one. Number two, what I'll say is that I believe that the absolute scariest thing that you could possibly do is
Mhm.
exactly the thing that you must do. So that thing,
Mm.
which is the scariest thing, quitting your job, applying for this new role somewhere else, messaging someone at your dream company for an informational interview, applying to that grad school that you think is like out of reach, whatever the totally craziest, scariest thing that you could do, whatever that thing is, that's exactly
Right.
the thing that you need to do. And for me, the scariest
Mm.
possible thing was leaving that job without a next step, without any idea of what I was
Yes.
going to do with my visa, without any idea of what I was going to do next professionally. What are people going to think if I just like take a break? Like, that was the absolute scariest thing for me to do. I did not know what I wanted to do next. I didn't know what I needed to do, but I knew I just needed to get the heck up out of there. And I just jumped. So
Right.
that scary thing, just jump, just do it. And absolutely, it will lead to whatever's next, because once you jump, there is no way you can fall. The universe will catch you. Your networks
Mm.
will catch you. Everything you've been working so hard for up until this moment is going to catch you. So take that
Mm.
jump, take that leap. I know it's scary, but I guarantee you, you are going to fly.
I love that. I love that. Just jump. Just jump, and the universe will be there to meet you, right? It's just
Telling
getting
you.
to that place of trusting that the ideas, the dreams that you have inside you are meant to be carried out, and you have everything in you to carry them out. Just taking that leap. So, yes, yes. And yeah, I saw it. Alicia said, yes, it's confirmation. Yeah, yeah. Agreed, agreed. But yeah, I kind of want to shift to what you're doing now, right? With hosting Started Up, which is a competition, an entrepreneurship competition on YouTube. And just wanted to ask you more broadly, how is it being in entrepreneurship spaces globally, the innovation you're exposed to all the time? How does that inspire you? How has it changed your life being exposed to all that?
Oh my gosh. Well, Started Up has been an absolute blessing. So, Started Up is my YouTube show. It is my actual TV show. So, when I talked earlier about how I was like,
Yes.
I just changed my LinkedIn headline to say TV show host with no TV show to my name. No, I actually have a TV show to my name now. So, I'm like, it's legit. And, Started Up is literally a competition where these young people, these entrepreneurs from every single country around the world are competing and pitching their social impact business ideas in the hopes of
Mhm.
winning $50,000. And it is so unique. It is so special. It's so incredible to see these 18, 19, and 20-year-olds from Kenya, from Colombia, from Mexico, from Germany, literally coming to the stage with these insane ideas about how they're going to change the world, and me being the host, guiding them through that journey, liaising with
Right.
our all-star celebrity judges from around the world,
Oh,
and
love
and
that.
watch and hosting that on YouTube.
Mm.
It's really been such a fun an insanely cool journey. And it's so funny. I'll tell you this story. One of my best friends in the world, this woman named Nicole, she's based in Cyprus, and she's also, in the development world. And, we had worked together at the same company for a little while, a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I remember after my friend Nicole watched Started Up, she literally sent me a voice note, and she was like, bitch, you thought you left development? She was like, no, you did not. She was like, youth empowerment, internationally focused, social impact. She was like, yeah, you are still in development. You're just working on your own terms. And I was like, yes, that part. And so it's literally all the things that I love. And it's so funny, Marissa, because I have to say, even now, being a presenter, being an MC, I am consistently tapped for roles and for gigs and for shows that have a social justice and social impact component, and that's just the reality of who I am. That is never going to go away. So it doesn't matter what sector I work in. I could work in hospitality and there would still be something around social impact that would just find me, because that's literally in my soul, right? I am here to make sure that we tip the scales of the world. We tip the scales of the power hierarchy of the world back in favor of people of color. That is what I'm about. That is what I want to do, no matter if it's entertainment or international development or diplomacy or hospitality or, whatever it is. And so hosting Started Up and working with these dynamic entrepreneurs all over the world has just given me such a new outlook on how people are trying their best to change the world, even if they're not doing it from a nonprofit perspective, from a government perspective. These are people who run companies that have profits, that have revenue, that have employees. These are corporations, and they are doing it to better the world, right? And so I think shifting that mindset, shifting my own mindset away from nonprofits and INGOs and international development and government and multilateral agencies, and being like, actually, there are millions of people out there who want to do good in the world, and they're not going to go the nonprofit route. And actually, maybe they shouldn't go the nonprofit or the development route, because there are ways to have a tremendous impact in the world and do it on your own terms and get paid to do it. Okay, so that's where we are now.
I love that. And it's like kind of going back to like the universe will send you what you need, because you're still operating your skill set. You're still operating like in the passions that you have. It's just outside of that toxic environment. And that's powerful, because a lot of us feel like we have to stay in these toxic environments to do what we love. And you left and you're still doing what you love and still doing what you're passionate about. That's inspiring.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you, Marissa.
You're welcome. I did want to ask you your future goals and aspirations as an international host, speaker, entrepreneur. What things, do you want to get into in the future?
So many things. Okay. First and foremost, Netflix.
Netflix. I can totally see that. So, yes.
Girl, if anybody watching this right now has any hookup at Netflix, please tell them to call your girl Nikki, because I am ready for my Netflix special. I'm ready for my Netflix show. That is a thing that I'm working toward. And obviously, I'm kind of playfully talking about it now, but I'm actually putting in work to like meet with lots of casting directors and be, in that industry, so I can actually, try and make this Netflix show happen. So Netflix show is like the most imminent thing that I'm like really actively working toward. And the other thing I'm trying to really work toward is making sure that as a presenter and as an MC, my cross-cultural capital is the thing that shines through. So clients know that I'm available anywhere in the world at any time. So literally last week, I just flew back from Manila, from the Philippines, where I was hosting Asia's premier Web3 and blockchain conference called the Philippine Blockchain Week. And so to be on stage there as an American, as a woman of color, on one of Asia's biggest stages, and talking to Miss Philippines and the First Lady of the Philippines. There were so many incredible VIP guests there from the Philippines. And to be able to hold space for those people and be in those spaces is so critical, right? So I want I want my clients to know, like, you need me to host a conference in Dubai, I can be in Dubai this weekend. You need me to film a show in LA, I can be in LA next week. You need me to kickstart a new brand in who knows where, in Jakarta, in Indonesia, I can be there. So sort of working on building my own show and more shows like Nikki Band's Live, but doing that on a bigger scale like Netflix. That's immediate goal number one. And immediate goal number two is to make sure that clients know they can book me anytime, anywhere, all over the world. I'm global. I'll hop on planes. I got frequent flyer miles. I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
I love that, man. You were just like all over the globe doing like you said, hosting like a blockchain event in the Philippines and like all of these events globally. And it just started, I feel like, and you can correct me, but leaving that toxic job opened you up to all of these opportunities that are coming your way.
Oh, 100%, yes. 100%. And I had to leave to even know that this is what I could do. Like I said, when I left my job, I didn't know what was next. I didn't think I was going to get into entertainment. I didn't think I was going to go into hosting and presenting. I didn't know what I was going to do. I literally quit and was like, whoo, now I just need to rest. I quit my job. I left Cape Town. I went back to my parents' place in Los Angeles. I literally was on my parents' couch for 3 months, and all I did was watch Law and Order SVU. And I was like, I just need to detox. I don't know why I chose that show to detox, but I'm about social justice, so
yeah.
Okay, so I was like, I just need to, I just need to detox, and that's how the ideas, to be a presenter and to be an MC came to me, and that's how I started finding clients who would book me, to host on Zoom, or finding clients who want to send me to Dubai or to Manila, or oh, here's a producer sliding into my DMs being like, you want to audition for our new, YouTube show. So really, like, I had to take that break. I had to take that leap and like just quiet my mind to even figure out what was next. I think there's so much pressure that like if you're going to leave a job, you're going to leave an industry, you have to know what's next, and don't let that be the case. It's okay if you don't know. Maybe you need to just relax and quiet and clear your mind to actually figure out what's next. And so I had to do that. I figured out what was next, and maybe this isn't even the end goal for me. Maybe I'm going to be maybe I'll end up being a politically appointed diplomat one day. Maybe I end up being an author and publishing a bunch of books. Like for me, the possibilities now feel endless. And I know that this role of me hosting and presenting is another stepping stone to get me to the next place that I want to go. My Netflix show is going to be an incredible stepping stone into the next place and the next thing that I want to go. And I'm so excited about the future and what's to come, but I'm also enjoying every single little moment along the way, honestly.
I love that. I love that. Enjoying the process while you're working towards the larger goal. That's powerful. And I can't wait to watch your Netflix show because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, like sooner rather than later. Yes.
We're going to manifest that. Let's manifest that.
Yes, we are. We are. I do want to read a comment here. Yeah, Alicia says, I love that Nicole is big on just asking, being bold enough to ask. Yes. Yes, because a lot of us feel like we can't even ask. We don't have the power to ask, to tell the universe, I would like to go in this direction. Please guide me in this direction. And the fact that you did that and it's paying off enormously, I think it's just like, I know it's inspiring me and everyone in this chat. So thank you. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And remember that when you ask, be specific. Like it's your dream, it's your goals, it's your wishes and your desires. There's no reason to be shy about that. I don't know if maybe you have a journaling practice, maybe you write notes on your phone, maybe you're doing like the artist's way, whatever you're doing out there, be specific when you ask for these things. Say, I want this Netflix show with this many episodes and this many seasons, and I want to get paid this much. Like, be as specific as possible, and so that when you finally get that opportunity to step into that room with that casting director or with that producer or whoever, you know exactly what you want. So be very specific when you tell the universe, because the universe will take all those things into consideration. I truly believe that.
And that's a powerful, you said something else. Tell the universe, I want to be paid this much for this. Like, because a lot of us feel like, again, in toxic jobs, we have to accept the bare minimum. We have to be, accept underpayment all the time. No, I want to be paid this much because my skills deserve this. And, say it boldly. I love that.
Yes,
I love that.
say it boldly. And honestly, I have to say, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I stepped out of the development world because now I'm like,
Yes.
people out here have money. Like people are making money. What was I doing making $45,000 a year at a nonprofit when
Yeah.
I can charge $10,000 to host a conference for 3 days? Like, what are we talking
Hmm.
about? Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Honestly, it's like yeah, be specific with your money, and it's not
Yes.
all about money,
Yes.
right? Like, and a lot of us
Right.
who,
Right. Hmm.
women who are living and working overseas, you actually don't need as much you don't need as much money to live a life that is
That
rich.
part.
Okay, you don't
Yes.
need that.
Hmm.
But whatever you need to live your rich life, then be specific about that and don't be afraid to tell the universe that this is what you need to be happy and healthy and wealthy on your terms.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to read this comment too by Mary S. Literally just finished with HR venting about our toxic work environment and rolled into this live stream. Divine appointment, yes. Divine appointment, absolutely. I started my resignation process yesterday. Yes, yes. You deserve everything, Mary.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, thank y'all so much for all these beautiful comments in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Speak that, yes. Nicole is sharing so many gems. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I did want to ask as we're wrapping up where people can continue to follow your journey online, attend Nikki Band's Live every Tuesday on Instagram, and yeah, just continue to support you. How can people do that?
Thank you so much for giving me space to
Yeah.
share this, Marissa. Honestly, it's just been so lovely. If people want to continue to follow my journey, please follow me on Instagram at They Call Me Bands. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my government name, Nicole Banister. I'm also on YouTube,
Yeah.
youtube.com/at Nicole Banister, aka Nikki Bands. So YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn are really the places to find me. I look forward to being in touch. Like I said, if people want to slide into my DMs about leaving their toxic work environments or about living and working overseas or just about like being fabulous, living your best life, like just holler at me. We can absolutely talk. But honestly, Marissa, it's just been so lovely to be able to connect with you like this, and even the way that we connected online through other
Yeah.
people's platforms, and now here we are talking, connecting. It's just so exciting.
It is. It is. And yeah, I came across your interview on Dr. Kamani's channel, Lifting as We Climb Consulting on YouTube, and also Adelia, who's in the chat, Picky Girl Travels the World. So those interviews, I was like, and then I started following your journey on Instagram. I'm like, okay, you are so inspiring. I have to talk to you. So yes, this has been a dream to be able to talk to you today. And thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to
Oh my
see
gosh.
all of the things that you do in the future. I know it's about to be amazing.
Thank you so much, Marissa. Yeah, shout out to Dr. Kimani. Shout out to Adelia, aka Picky Girl
Yeah.
Travels. There's so
Yeah.
many dynamic Black American creators online these days. And Marissa,
So
you are
many.
absolutely one of them. I love that what you're
Oh,
doing with your
thank
channel.
you.
I love that you are highlighting and sharing the stories of women and women of color who are breaking free of the toxicity of jobs and capitalism that just does not serve them. So thank you for allowing me the space to share my story, and for everybody who's been here on this live and everyone who's watching the rerun right now. Thank you all for
Yeah,
being a part of this journey, because without y'all, me and Marissa couldn't be doing what we're doing. So thank you for your
that
support.
is true.
And like I said, thank you, Marissa, for having me. This has just been so lovely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes. And I agree. Thank y'all for what you do out there, Black women content creators. Thank you, because y'all have paved the way and showed us that it's possible. So thank you. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to thank y'all so much in the chat. And yeah, I guess that's it. I put Nicole's links to her Instagram page, her YouTube page in the chat if you want to follow her. And yeah, until next time, y'all. Hope you have a good day. See ya.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.